Hey, welcome to Discovering Exodus. I'm Kristen Tschida, and today we are in chapter 36. If you want the daily devotional handouts, you can find those on my website, KristenTschida.com. On the top is a resource page, and just kind of hover over that, and then click on the devotionals. Click on that, and then all individual chapters handouts are there for you. All right. We're going to get into the curtains and the veils of the tabernacle. That's what chapter 36 is all about. And I have a picture again that I'm going to show you of the structure of the tabernacle. And you see the courtyard and then the bronze altar and the bronze basin inside the outer courtyard. And then this is the holy place, the inner court that was divided, the holy place. And then the most holy place is right in here. The only thing in the most holy place was the Ark of the Covenant. All right, so I'm just going to, and I'll show this again as we go through, but I just want to go through each of the veils. So I'm going to start with a scripture, John 14:6, and Jesus said, he's talking to his disciples, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So what I see in these curtains is that it is the way, the truth, and the life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then as you're reading through Exodus 36, or even through this whole study, really discover for yourself. You can take it as deep as you want, or just take for face value what we're doing, what I'm sharing, and what you're discovering as you're reading through it and studying it, meditating right now on your own. All right, so the first curtain. So I'm going to go back to our picture. The first one we see is the entrance. And we've talked about this already, and this is the entrance. And so for what I see this to be is this is the way. Jesus is the way. So this is the entrance or gate that's on the east side of the tabernacle. And we've talked about this. It was the only way in. You can't climb over the white curtains. You can't climb under it. It's that song from our childhood. You can't climb over it. You can't go around it, or you can't go around it, can't go through it. I guess we'll have to walk through. We walk through the gates. This is where we begin a relationship with Jesus. And so I see it when I look at a home. I think of this first entrance as kind of coming into the entryway. So there's this place of invitation. I've entered, and now it's the beginning of discovering who Jesus is, who I am in him, just asking questions, really seeking him out, seeking out community, really beginning to grow. So then we move, show my picture again. So this is the way, and in that place we have understanding the place of sin, really kind of meditating in the Word to see how we can be refreshed, how we can be renewed, how we can receive new life in Jesus. Then the second curtain that we see, the veil, is going into the inner court. And I call this curtain, or this veil, this is the life. So Jesus is the way, he's the way, he's the truth, this is the truth. And we enter into this place, and inside the inner court, the holy place, was the lampstand, the table of showbread, and the golden altar. That's where incense, and we've talked about that one, where incense arose. Only priests could enter into the inner place. So what I see here is we're gaining access, and we've gained access, thinking about it as a home. When you first accept Jesus, or even start asking questions, you make your way in. So we have gained access into the entryway. And I don't know about you, but there are some people, they only get to hang out in the entryway. I'm not inviting them to come and sit around my table. So the kitchen is what I see as this place of truth. And there's something about sitting around a table and you're breaking bread together and you're talking and you're discovering more about the depth of friendship and intimacy. And this is what I see, this place, the holy place. It's the tarrying with the Lord. It's sitting with him. It's the secret place. It's tent time. And we're discovering more about who we are. We're discovering more about who God is. And it's really engaging with God around communion, around the table. the fellowship, really kind of growing in friendship with God. So we've got Jesus is the way, the entrance into the outer court. He is the truth, the entrance into the holy place. And the third curtain or veil that we see was right here, as that curtain was the one that led you into the most holy place. The only person that entered the most holy place was the high priest. He did it one day a year on the Day of Atonement. But in the most holy place was the Ark of the Covenant, where God's presence, the Shekinah glory of God, where he rested. It's where Moses went and met with God. And as we talked about several chapters ago, the altar of incense kind of sat right by that veil. And so as close as the priest could get to the presence of God was this altar of incense, where we see intercession and worship going forth, that fragrant offering to the Lord. And when we get pushing past that veil into the most holy place, what we see is this is life. So we have the way, the truth, and the life. And this is the deepest invitation to intimacy that God gives to us. And I believe it can be correlated to the intimacy between a man and a husband and a wife. Many are invited into the entryway. And I would say, as we know Jesus, God sent his son because he sent his son for the whole world. So he sent out the invitation, but there are those who only stay in the entryway. There are only those who linger a little while in that place of the holy place, in that place of discovering truth, of figuring out. It's that from glory to glory, figuring out who I am, figuring out who God is. And there are those who push past, who linger long, who desire more, they're not satisfied with anything that they have known or they've even had in their own personal experience with God. They want more. They hunger for more. This is that most holy place. So what I think about is a bedroom, that there is an intimate level of a husband and wife that is only shared with husband and wife. And this is what Jesus has given. He's invited us into this place of vulnerability. He's invited us in this place of face to face. He's invited us into a place of intimacy that is represented in this most holy place. And if you remember, when Jesus died on the cross, this temple had been rebuilt, and the curtain was torn from the top to the bottom. And when you read that in scripture, it's this curtain. It's the curtain that held everybody out except for the high priest once a year. So God is telling us, I've made a way. You now, anyone who wants it can have access. And that curtain torn from top to bottom, and that curtain was like 4 to 8 inches thick. And the walls of Herod's temple were like 30 feet, maybe even larger. So this was a miraculous feat. And what God was saying in that moment is, there's access to everyone. I want you to have access to my presence. I want you to enjoy fellowship with me. There is no longer, we can only go so far. So when we look at these curtains, I want you to just think about just the blessing of the intimacy that comes, and what God's desire for us is that we would know him, and we would desire him, and we would want him to know us fully and intimately. So we see that this the glory of God that dwelt in the most holy place is available to you and to I. So a couple chapters ago, we read the prayer of Moses, show me your glory. He wanted more and more and more from God. So I just really want to encourage you to keep that your cry, keep that your prayer. God, show me your glory. Take me, if I'm in the entry, show me where I am. Am I in just the outer court? Have I not moved past the veil to get closer in friendship and fellowship with you? We have access to him fully. You and I, believers, we're the only ones who have full access to him. So we don't want to shrink back. We don't want to sit back and say, well, I'm just satisfied with what I have. We want to push past and go for more of God. The last thing I want to share very quickly, and before we wrap up today, is there were curtains that hung over the inner court. So there were no curtains over the outer court, that big outer court, which was about half the size of a football field. But there were curtains that were on top of, that covered the inner court. So I just want to give you, what those layers were. There were 4 layers. And we see Jesus. Jesus is evident everywhere in the tabernacle. That's why I love studying the tabernacle. The first layer over the inner court was that blue, scarlet, purple fabric, and it was woven and fine linen woven with cherubim. So remember, the cherubim are over the Ark of the Covenant. They're guarding God's presence. And so we see them, they're all throughout the tabernacle. So those are, when the priests would look up, they would see the cherubim. They would see that gorgeous, the invitation of the blue of revelation and communion, and the scarlet of representing Jesus's blood, and the purple of his royalty. And then the second, so over that layer was a layer of goat's hair. And most scholars say that goat's hair was like black goat's hair, because that was what most common in the land. And so what we see is in Song of Solomon, the little beloved is saying, she's comparing herself to the tent curtains, and she says, I'm dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. So over, we've got the beauty of the cherubim and the invitation, and then over that is the black goat's hair, which represents our sin. So we are in that. That's part of our nature, is that place of darkness. And then the third layer was ram's skins, and they were dyed red. I wonder why they were dyed red. Representing Jesus. And we see, when we see in Genesis, the sacrifices that were made for Abraham, his covenant with God. Twice. In Genesis 15, it's a ram. And in Genesis, I think it's 22, when he takes his son up the mountain, it's a ram who's caught in the thicket. And we see that blood is spilled, and it's representing the blood spilled for us. So Jesus is represented. It's like he covers our sin so we can have access to God's full presence. And then the top, the very last covering, the fourth covering over the whole tabernacle, was a hide of leather or sea cows, but it was a kind of just gross, but it was a protection. It was that protective covering from the elements in the wilderness, in the desert. And it was also used to cover all the furniture that was used in the tabernacle. And what do we see of that with Jesus? Isaiah 53:2 says, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. From the outlook of the tabernacle, that leather that stretched, and whether it was blue or gray or, that it just it didn't have anything that was like, wow, I wonder what beauty is inside that place. And we know that inside the holy place, it's filled with gold. The table of showbread, the altar of incense, the lighted, the lampstand that illuminated the only light in the place was the lampstand. And then the Ark of the Covenant, all crafted out of gold. So just be encouraged as you are on your journey, whether you're in the entryway, whether you're moving into deeper fellowship with Jesus in the kitchen, or whether you've gone all that way into the most holy place of just enjoying his presence and saying, I want more. I never want to be satisfied. I want constant hunger and thirst for who you are. So I will see you tomorrow as we are almost to the end of this wonderful study of the book of Exodus and the beauty and the majesty of King Jesus that is seen throughout all the pages. I'll see you tomorrow.